You ready, bud?
It was about
No,
mid-August.
wait a minute, he's not ready.
Yeah, we're going.
I'll make
Oh,
more.
sorry.
I'll make more on it. You got me?
We're set.
You ready?
We're recording
It was 1946
under your mind line of vision.
that I arrived in Japan on the USS Aiken Victory from Pittsburgh, California, down the Sacramento River, out into San Francisco Harbor, and I got on the SS Aiken Victory. And I got out there and walked the gangplank and got on the ship. That's how we got on it. And then we got settled in, and I was 6 hammocks high in the bottom of the ship going up into it. So I had to climb loop, 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 18 years old. And I got up there, and then the next thing I knew, I went to sleep, and I woke up, and that boat was rocking back and forth. I'm going to make this into a lot of stories. You're going to like them.
All right, I'm going to keep this
And
going.
I got out there, and the ship was rocking and rolling, and I knew I was going to get sick. Well, we got down into the South Pacific, and the South Pacific Ocean is just as calm like a sheet of glass, except when there's a storm. And the storm came up, and oh, it was terrific. And there was 2 other fellows, I don't know who they were. We stood in the front of the ship, in the bow up there, not the stern, in the bow. And the ship would pitch forward and dip water, and we were right there. And then it would come back up, and then it would dip down to the right and dip water. Then it would come back up, and then it would dip to the left and dip water, and then it would come back up and dip in the middle. Just as regular as you can think. And oh, it was a terrible storm. Finally, up in the captain's lookout, they seen us down there, and they came and said, "You got to get down below." Well, down below, guys were sick from the pitching and stuff, and it wasn't very pleasant, and food was no good. And one little incident that happened there was a Chinese guy was sitting across from me, and about all we had to eat was round, and it looked, when you broke them open, it was stringy like. And I thought that's some kind of a mold, or like a spider web it was. And all of a sudden he goes,
Oh,
right there.
no.
Your tables were made with a ridge about that high on them, so your plates wouldn't slide off and stuff like that. But that's about all we got to eat. And so finally, we got about 4 or 5 days of that storm, and then the sun came out, and that ocean was just like a sheet of glass again. So everybody wanted to get up on deck, and not everybody went up on at the same time. And a merchant marine, see, merchant marines ran these ships, not regular Navy sailors. And here comes this merchant marine up. It was a big turkey bone, all of them good meat on it. Now keep in mind, we had not ate for days. I mean, you didn't eat. And he ate that in front of us. There's about 5 or 6 of us down there, and he'd take a bite. And he took about 3 bites is all he took, and their dog mascot was there, and he threw that to him. Now, I was so hungry, I almost tempted to go and take that away from that dog, but I knew better. And so that was, we was getting close to Tokyo, but, well, another little part of that story is it got hot. You could not sleep down below the deck. So, believe it or not, most of us got up on deck, and now, the other day, I seen this on TV. The guys were sleeping on deck, but they tied themselves to a rope. We weren't tied. We just slept right on top of the steel planks. You didn't have nothing. You just had some light clothes on. Hot. Oh, it was hot. And you just went to sleep there. Well, eventually we got to Tokyo, and then we went to Yokohama. Now, after a year down on the southern island of Kyushu, my orders, I knew there was going to be shipping out orders come, but I didn't expect to get shipped out till September, towards the end of September. And one day then, August, about the middle of August, they says, you're shipping out to go home. And I was real surprised at it. So we went up to Tokyo again, and we was at the 4th Replacement Depot. And you looked out, the sun sets in the west, and we could see the beautiful ocean there where we was at. I don't see how, we must have been on the west side of Japan, in the China Sea there. Anyway, the sun was the most beautiful sun I'd ever seen. It was just beautiful. It was a pink, and it's just, I'll never forget it. It was just so beautiful. Well, then we got coming home, got on the ship and processed and everything to go to Seattle, Washington on the ship. Well, we got out there, and I got called for guard duty again. And they took me down to the bottom of this ship. I suppose there's this way every place. You know what wooden, not planks, but they got like this to walk on, and water can be underneath that on the ship, and there was water from some leak, some very minor leak. Well, they took me up, right up, you know, now imagine this is the point, right there where the ship comes. And there was a space, from me to, not that way, just enough room for a casket. And so they have shipping boards around this casket, and this was a soldier that had died in Japan. It was a chief warrant officer, and I had guard duty to guard his body. Down there, way down there, oh man, it was down deep water, just like he's on a submarine, and water floating around in there. I didn't have to have a gun or a club or anything, because he wasn't going to get up. Well, Cheryl wants me to tell you when I got sick in Japan. I had been, have you ever heard it?
I think I've heard it.
Okay.
But tell it.
Okay.
Go ahead and tell
Well, I'd always had tonsillitis trouble and earache. And I got guard duty in between Christmas 1946 and 47. And you went on guard duty at night, and then when you got off guard duty at 6 in the morning, then you went to your job. You didn't just go to sleep and rest. You 24 hours duty. Well, I got real sick. I couldn't swallow, and I couldn't eat. I says, what am I going to do? And on the breakfast table, they had these little cans of what we would call carnation milk, but it was real thick from Australia and sweetened. It was good. That's all I could do. And all I could do was to swallow that, and the only time you got it was for breakfast. And then I went and took my job. Finally, I said, I can't live or keep going like this. So I didn't report in, but I just went right over to the dispensary. And it was an old Japanese building, not very big. And I stood out there waiting to get called. I didn't check in really. And I was standing there, and all of a sudden, my mouth filled up with pus. Yeah. And I, like that, to get rid of it. And an army doctor standing there seeing what I spit up. And he says, "Soldier, come over here." He says, "You come right in here now." And I went in, and he looked down there, and he said, one of your tonsils is not exploded, has erupted. And he said, "You'll have to have 18 penicillin shots." And he says, "I can do this for you. I can send you to the hospital in the Fukuoka, or I will, you can take your shots here and you won't have to go to the hospital." Well, I knew better than to get into the hospital, because what they would have done was gotten me well and taken my tonsils out. And I wasn't going to have that. And besides that, the hospital was run by the 24th and 25th Infantry Division, and they didn't treat Air Force fellows very well. Well, here's what I did. I says, "I'll stay here," and he says, "There'll be 18 shots. You'll get them every 2 hours. Penicillin." Well, if you multiply 18 by 2, you get 36 hours. I was going to be there, a day and a half. So, right away, they laid me down on a table, or I think it was a cot. The guy says, "Now I'm going to use the little needle on you." And he says, "The big needle is what the guys that get venereal disease." And he says, "We use the big needle on them." Well, he took the syringe and he stuck it in. Now you pull your trousers down, they get your fat there. And he got it in there and he broke it off, didn't he?
Ooh.
And he tried to pull it out with his fingers and he couldn't.
Oof.
And so he says, "I'm going to have to get a pair of pliers to get this out of there." So he went and got, have you heard this one then?
Yes, I've heard it.
Okay.
I remembered it.
I'll tell you some more about it.
The grandmother passed.
Not at this part of it. Well, he just got down there and finally he could get the pliers on it, pushed down on my skin, and got hold of it and pulled it out. And so then he went and got the big one that wouldn't break, and I got 18 shots. And about last May, when I went to my doctor, I said, "I want to tell you a story." And I says, she's a woman doctor, and I says, "I want to tell you about the time I got 18 shots of penicillin." And I told her about it rupturing, and she gave me the scientific name right, just like that. I says, "Are you familiar with that?" I said, "Oh yeah, we have it all the time. Kids getting the tonsillitis and rupturing." So, is that enough stories for you
That's pretty good.
tonight? Oh, she's very good.
Yay,
She says Grandpa was telling us a story.
That's the way she's been all
I-
afternoon.
Good.
Just
I